of curriculum and technology. And Bruce, your updates.
Well, so we've been a little busy,
Good.
and if there's been one good side to this pandemic is we've had some money to spend to get some things up to snuff that we wouldn't have done with a regular locally funded budget, that's for sure.
Good. Very
Great.
good.
The amount that we've accomplished in 1 year is pretty phenomenal, and the end result for me is by the end of this school year, every piece of hardware we have in the district, from the plug in the wall to the device that goes home to the wires in the wall to the servers to everything, will be about 2 years old.
Wow.
Or less. You know, certainly our new fleet in the spring will be brand new at the time, so that'll help to drop that average age value. But to know that we've modernized so much that has not found a way to be a part of the local budget, you know, it's great. So I've got a list. Get your popcorn.
Yes.
You know, this is better than Christmas for me. You know that, right?
Right.
Well, you know, it's tough for me too to remain sincere about what this pandemic really is, but the whole Christmas part is certainly an exciting piece for me as well. So we started off the summer, or the beginning of COVID money, by upgrading our email server, and
Yeah.
we really made a big jump there. Our email server before had 2 terabytes of storage. Our email server now has 20 terabytes of storage. And the real benefit from that, not only by bringing the hardware and speed of the equipment up to date, has more been the ability to allow people to have more space. We've been limiting an email in order to make things fit within our confines, but now students have gone from a 2 gigabyte mailbox to a 10 gigabyte mailbox, and staff members have gone from a 5 gigabyte mailbox to a 20 gigabyte mailbox.
That's a lot.
It certainly gives people a lot of space. I wanted to make sure that while we were in any kind of a remote learning type environment, that attachments weren't going to be a problem. And I figured that we'd have a lot of file attachments, so I knew we needed the space. I'm certainly concerned that it allows people to hoard. And so I don't know how we ever overcome that hurdle, but the hoarding will only get worse. But we have the space, so they can hoard till they meet their limit, and then the system will cut them off themselves. So that's been wonderful. We've also put a brand new server in every school. All of our servers in the schools had been either a recycled desktop running server software, or a server that was 14 years old and hadn't been upgraded. The schools had really been long overlooked from the server aspect. So every school has a brand new file server, application server, and those are all successfully deployed as of this weekend.
Wow.
This weekend, I finished the last one of those. So all of our schools are all on new servers.
What do you get for servers? What do you like?
Well, I actually have custom machines built from a company called DACTech. And the reason why I use DACTech is all of their parts come with a 7-year warranty. And it's hard to find a long warranty in electronics, but it's really nice in our type of financial environment. If something breaks for 7 years, that machine doesn't cost us anything.
Right, it's great.
And so that's huge for me, because sometimes some of those expenses can just come out of the blue, and they're not in the budget. So one of the nice things about all of this, again, is all of our equipment will be under warranty. Once again, once we buy the new Apple fleet in the spring, every single device we have is under warranty. And
fantastic,
for me, that's huge.
Yes. Yeah, that's a big part of it.
That's a very, very big part of it.
Yeah.
Um,
No surprises.
we've also purchased a new firewall for every school. So we had a very big firewall for the front end of our network, which is the middle school. Our internet comes into the middle school, and then each of our buildings have a network connection to the middle school. So essentially, someone at the high school going onto the internet has to go to the middle school first before they go out to the internet. So that's a very safe structure for us. But in reality, the high school still does have an outside connection to it, just the traffic isn't routed that way. So it is still an opportunity for exposure risk. So we've sealed off all the buildings individually by buying a firewall for every school as well. And another nice benefit of that is going to allow my networks to form VPN connections between each other. So
Ah,
currently when some traffic initiates at the high school and is trying to go out to the internet, it really goes out to the internet, back to the middle school, and back out to the internet again. And when I establish these VPN connections between the firewalls, because they're the exact same firewalls that match up to each other, that will form a tunnel between the buildings, and that'll be a direct connection. So that's another security impact, but it also is a performance impact as well. So that I'm excited about. Those are being deployed next week. I've also purchased all new wireless network equipment for central office. We did all the buildings, not just last summer, but the summer before. We replaced all the networks in the buildings with wires and racks and switches and wireless access points. But we were intending to move to South School at that time. So I didn't purchase for central office. And so now that it doesn't seem that we're moving to South School, I need central office to be on that same genre network. And so we've purchased the identical equipment to bring central office onto that same network as well.
Bruce, what if
Sure.
we did move somewhere?
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
What if we did move somewhere?
I'm retiring.
I mean, Rockland still was voted to get the building, and we don't know what's going to happen, but it does concern me about you. I think everyone else can move with hardship, but it's easier than you.
Yeah, I refer you to my previous statement.
Oops. We'll help, Bruce. We'll help.
So certainly everything is movable. It may not be the same match for parts given the geographic layout. So, if we went into a different building that was stretched out instead of stacked on top of each other,
Yeah.
some networking needs might change. So it might require some additional purchases if the geography of the building impacts that. But otherwise,
Right.
everything can move.
Is all of your equipment in the basement?
Well, I don't know what you mean by all of my equipment.
All your equipment in the McLean building, is it in the basement or is it in other floors too?
So no, all the infrastructure is in the basement. Certainly there's wires going up to all the locations in the rest of the building and into wireless access points and things like that. But
Right, but
the
servers,
heart of it,
like, yeah, the meat of what you do is down there, right?
absolutely.
Okay, I just gotta keep that in my head, all right?
It provides heat in the winter.
It does, yeah.
But we could certainly move everything if needed. It wouldn't be a fun time whatsoever. And it would require that we'd have to pre-stage things in such a way so that we wouldn't have an outage, because you can't just unplug and move somewhere else and plug back in. The whole internet world has to know that you've moved, and that routing of all that destination has to be published across the whole world. And that's a good 48 hours before you could say that your changes in addresses get published throughout the world. So if we stage things in such a way to establish the new network first, and then just flip a switch on the numbers, we can do it more instantaneously without the outage. But if we just want to do it with what we have, we'd have to have a little bit of downtime so that I could move that equipment and get that equipment reestablished.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
there
yeah,
is a
don't wanna
desire
move.
by some in Rockland to have more public housing and using the McLean building for that, but it's not clear to me that there's enough desire. I don't know. Even if anything did change for you, it would be, at least 2 years, if not longer, before we even got to that possibility. And maybe you could just plain stay there if we ever got to that possibility. These are huge ifs. I just,
Yeah.
you mentioned you've
Certainly.
upgraded. I just wanted to ask you directly.
I realize that those are all still possibilities as well. I certainly say my prayers each night that they're not. But if anyone wants to move in upstairs, I'll offer them free internet if they let me stay.
Yeah. Very fast internet too.
Yeah, very
Good
fast.
internet, yes.
It's
Oh,
filtered
that's-
though, so it's safe for kids. So
Yeah, right.
Right.
so
So,
we have all new networking equipment for central office so that it'll match up with all of our other buildings.
wonderful.
Next,
It's nice to hear you happy, Bruce, instead of wondering where we're going to get, $250,000 for equipment.
well, I've had some pleasure in spending over $500,000.
I bet you did.
I could do that too.
I wouldn't mind if some of it was, equipment for me personally, but no, it is great to know that things are all going to be in a similar generation of hardware. It's tough sometimes when some of your older hardware doesn't want to play well with the newer hardware. And
That's
so to
right.
get all the little different things, we're going to be in a situation where I don't have any band-aids. And that's the best part for me is everything's going to work as advertised. As if you were picking up a magazine and reading an article about some computer network and what it's supposed to do, ours is going to do that because all the pieces are going to like each other.
Yes.
And so it really allows me to accomplish the different things in today's traffic. When we have our VoIP phone system, because currently we're still on voice over IP phones, in order to have that traffic prioritized so that somebody streaming YouTube doesn't make your phone call sound like Charlie Brown's teacher.
Yeah.
Right.
Having all these new network switches allows me to tag the packets of data that come out of your phone, out of the desk phones, as VoIP traffic, and it gets priority. So this newer technology in the network allows me to prioritize different parts of the traffic that needs to be prioritized versus downgrading some of that priority for someone sitting in the corner watching YouTube.
Yeah.
So I've really tried hard to tweak the phone system to increase the phone quality so that we don't have the garbled or the tin can type sounds that come with the low quality recordings. So no, it's nice to have things be functioning as advertised.
Congratulations.
Particularly great because your football team sucks.
Oh, Lauren.
Oh, really? Is that any kettle calling I hear over there?
Yeah,
I've given
right.
up. I've given up on those Trump-loving whatever they are all down in Boston. I got nothing to do with them anymore. I'm done. I'm rooting for the Broncos now, for God's sakes.
Just the picture of Cam Newton sitting on the bench with his dreadlocks flopping out is pretty much sums up what the Patriots are today.
Yes, it is. Carol, do you have any questions for Bruce or Stephanie? Do you have any comments on Bruce's mother load?
Oh, I'm not even halfway done.
Oh, excuse me. Okay, next.
Certainly, if somebody has questions, I
just want to ask, are we finally through with the white laptops?
Oh, those have been long gone.
Oh, yeah.
Long gone.
Oh, I didn't get a chance to celebrate the way I wanted to.
They're in the harbor.
No, those white laptops I've been gone for 5 years.
Well, I knew they were phased out, but I thought we still had a few hanging around, the kind of what ifs, what in cases.
So when we finished 3 years ago with the K2 devices, when we successfully got 1-to-1 K12 with the K2 devices, that put the end of it, really. As far as, certainly there was some tucked around the corner somewhere for a couple more years there, but no, the white laptops are gone. Our
Yeah.
existing fleet with the MacBook Airs and the iPad set that the teachers have, this is their 5th year. We got 5 years out of that deployment as well.
Yeah, that was really lucky.
And I still anticipate getting over $200,000 by reselling that fleet this spring.
Wow.
Good. Yes, that we talked about that last year.
We have talked about it, and
Yes.
my fingers are still crossed that the value of those devices is still what they said they were last year. You know, they were predicting out as well, but the financial structure of things right now has changed. Maybe they're worth more.
Yeah, you can't. Yes, was that 2 years ago we started discussing that, Bruce?
No,
Sort
it
of-
was actually
4 years.
14 months ago that we started.
Well, yeah, no, Carol, no, this is a different thing we're talking about, was selling our old equipment for, to have money to invest in new equipment.
Yeah,
And
we always talk about that. I just didn't know.
yeah,
Well,
yes,
the intention is to purchase our next fleet in April of this upcoming year, so that I can receive shipment of that equipment and process that equipment so that it goes home with the teachers in June. And then we collect all the old devices in June and spend the summer getting those all shiny and buffed out to help increase their resale value. And one buyer is going to buy that whole lot.
fantastic.
And they had told us as much as 14 months ago that they anticipated that value to be around $200,000 to $230,000. But that's all going to also depend upon when they open them up and look at them. You know, if it's all scratched up, they give less money than if it looks like it was treated properly.
Yeah.
So that's why I want my team to be able to have sufficient time to clean them up and make them look as good as possible, to detail them, if you will, because that makes a big difference in how much money you get back for them. It really does.
Oh, yes,
The effort.
yes.
What are
People
you-
want things to look good.
What are you thinking about for the new fleet?
So the new fleet, I'd like to do the same thing again. I'd like to buy laptops for the teachers and then iPads for students and iPads for teachers. I think we've discovered in this remote style event, teachers having 2 devices was key.
Good.
Yeah, yeah,
All right.
It was
Didn't know that.
probably the best utilization of 2 devices since we gave them 2 devices. You know, they
Wow.
really need one device to be working on and one device to be a communication tool. And
that's so critical. It's really hard to use just one thing, because if you're using it for one thing, you can't use it for another.
well, and right, and the teacher having to play host
Yeah,
makes that real obvious that they need one device dedicated to communication.
Oh,
yes,
And
Yeah.
so I certainly know that we still should have a conversation in regards to how we want to address the high school kids, because it's always been a point to bring up as to whether high school kids should have laptops or not. And
Right.
one of the things that's really driven that topic for us is the cost. You know, the cost of laptops is much greater than the iPad. The cost of damage on laptops is much greater than iPads. And that's as much a concern for me as the purchase cost, because the moving laptops, the moving parts of a laptop are just something to break.
yeah,
Hinges and the keyboards. I mean, it has been a problem, but I don't disagree that high school students can achieve more with a laptop if we can afford it.
yeah, that's so true. I mean, we all know that just from working on the various devices we have.
Right. But I do feel strongly that teachers benefited by having 2 devices. And I
Yes.
hadn't really felt that way up until this time.
Okay. In the iPad world, I mean, there's a really cheap option and there's a really expensive option, depending on what you feel is best. I mean, if you feel like, you know, kids are going to be fine with the $300 iPad, which is basically, I think, what they have now, basically, then they are, along with the keyboards that seem to work pretty well, as far as I know from you and I see happening.
Certainly, we should talk about models and pick the, you know, that right price line in that model market, because some models are very expensive and some are cheap, but storage is an issue, you know.
Yes.
You can't have a 16 gig iPad anymore.
No.
We talked at one point in time about Apple Pencils.
And
Where
we
are we
have
on
talked
that?
about Apple Pencils as well. We currently have 2 classrooms that have Apple Pencils over at TGS, and there are some teachers at the high school that have purchased Apple Pencils through their local classroom budget, not for their entire class, but for them as a teacher.
Yeah.
And so I do agree that that's another thing to consider in that purchase is, and I would support, especially at the high school level, for students to have an Apple Pencil. John and I went down to Thornton Academy in Scarborough and spoke to a lot of students there to the value of those pencils, and they spoke very highly of the benefit of those pencils for them, and more so than a keyboard.
Yes.
They wanted the pencil more than they wanted a keyboard.
And if they value them highly, they will take care of them.
Hopefully.
Well, so certainly that's a different student base than we have, but yes.
Well, there's just simply loss. I mean, they're so easy to lose, like any pencil.
Yes.
And that concerns me because we've had enough loss on bigger items.
Yeah.
That a pencil is so much easier. But
If it was
Yeah.
$25 a pop, who would really care so much? But $100 a pop it's a whole different world.
well, and you know, the other downside is how they pair to the iPad. It doesn't make it the most shareable type of device. Certainly you can reset it and repair it with another iPad. But if anything, I would at least encourage that we have 2 or 3 sets of them in the library for checkout. And if a classroom wanted to use them for a week, they could, you know, because it may not be relevant for the whole school year. But a good compromise in that process would be to have 2 or 3 classroom sets of Apple Pencils in the library for checkout. They'd have to be repaired with every iPad every time someone wanted to use it, but at least it would be another tool for them to have.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought.
And I think it is the mid-level. I think it is the mid-level iPad that will pair to a pencil. I don't think the cheap ones do.
Right. And that's another concern as well.
Yeah.
I think that we can find a good device in the middle category there.
Yeah, very good device. Very, very good. Yeah.
And they're only getting better.
Well, and of course, Apple is going to change the size of that device. So then they're going to need all new cases.
Of course. And cables and everything else.
And adapters.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
So,
oh, now, Bruce, it was going so well. What else do you have?
So you are familiar that we have security cameras at the high school and at Ash Point. And
yes.
So I have purchased surveillance cameras for all schools.
Good.
And I am replacing the ones at the high school and at Ash Point at the same time.
Okay.
The style of cameras that exist at the high school and at Ash Point are local cameras that work with a local server. And so it's very cumbersome for people to access that material, and they have to be on our network. So you would have to either be on site or you'd have to first establish a VPN connection into our network and then access the server within that school. I mean, Ash Point and the high school aren't even on the same server. So you have to go through a lot of hoops and jumps in order to access any of this camera equipment. And what I've purchased is an entire cloud-based camera system that will work with smartphones. And
good.
And it's all cloud-based. The cameras upload to the cloud every night, so they don't take up the bandwidth during the day. currently the cameras that we have are on all the time. So they're creating traffic on the network all the time. And the high school network has a real performance hit from the amount of bandwidth that just an idle camera takes up.
Yeah.
And these new cameras have internal hard drives on them, and so that they're not broadcasting on the network until somebody accesses that camera individually. So it drops the traffic on the network considerably so that the cameras aren't always chattering. And
That's interesting.
That's huge for the
Yes.
impact on the network.
Yeah.
So I also like the fact that all the schools will be in the same cloud, the same app. You don't have to change your connection in order to go look at a different school or anything.
Well, that helps for speed also. I would think it would make it far more convenient, and you could do it so much more quickly to have it all together.
Yes, and these cameras, it's a very stable cloud-based environment. The existing cameras, so many times we've gone back to look at some of the footage and we find out that that camera quit recording. So there's been a couple opportunities where we didn't have footage because the camera itself just stopped recording. And it was just a cheaper system that's, you know, meant to be an internal system. And this is a more robust system. And I feel much more confident in it that it'll be online all the time.
What do these cameras cost?
So it was $150,000 for the district.
Okay. How many cameras in each school?
That varies by school size.
Yeah, right. Like,
there's a total of 138 cameras across the district that will be going in.
okay, gotcha. That's what I wanted.
But, you know, the difference between the high school and Cushing is night and day.
Yes. Literally.
Right. As far as the number of cameras that are required to cover the facility. The cameras are intended to cover all the entrances and exits so that we can have security footage on any vandalism, and they will cover hallways.
Barrett, that's great.
We are not putting cameras in classrooms.
Oh, so glad to hear that.
That's not the intention. The intention is more for security purposes.
Security, yeah, exactly.
So we've also got a new district webpage coming.
Good.
I heard
When
that.
we talked about the budget last year, that certainly was one of the first things that got cut from the budget in my request list because of the cost associated with it.
Yeah.
So we have a $40,000 webpage with an app. We will have a custom RSU13 app for your phone.
Yes.
God,
That app will
that's awesome.
push notifications and will show
Yes, that's
news feeds. It'll automatically come off of the web page from the building and populate the app. And it's going to increase our level of communication, and it's going to decrease the amount of times we have to type things in. So when we don't have school, or when we have a letter to families or whatnot, we've got to stop and do that in so many places, be it our website, Facebook, the one call notification system. You know, we stop and we do it we contact the news media and all that. This web page is integrated with all of those services except for the one call. But once you type something into the web page, it'll post everywhere else for you, so you don't have to go post everything twice.
hooray.
Yeah, hooray for Bruce.
Yeah, hooray for Bruce, and also just the plain old timeliness of getting stuff out.
Right, but it also transforms our image from that point of view. We have transformed our image because of our staff and our programming already, but it'll help to transform our image to be a modern, awesome district that we are because of it.
So currently, the status of that web page is they have a functional site. They've farmed over all of our menus and our links. Cosmetically, it's not there yet. You know, they're still making the clickable things work before they start painting things.
Who's doing it for us?
But it is coming along. I just had a meeting with them today at noon as well on another stage of it. And we've set up the training dates for the staff members, because each school will have the ability to designate a webmaster per school
Yes.
for editing their webpage.
Good,
We have
good.
training dates coming up in January for people to be trained on their new webpage.
Fantastic.
Definitely. What do you think?
I am super excited. I think it's going to streamline some of the forms that we have employees fill out. It's going to be a huge time saver on that end. And I agree with what you guys said about, we've had a lot of great changes in this district. We have a lot of positive momentum. You can't always tell that by looking at our website.
That is so true.
Great.
And especially if you're in another state, and you're
Yeah.
looking at moving
Yeah.
here. The first thing you have
Yes.
to do is look at our website.
Right. Exactly.
Exactly, because that's, oh yeah, oh, that's very exciting. So
Yeah.
now when you think maybe in January, end of January, it might be up?
Certainly. It is currently up now. It's just not worth displaying at this point because it's more of, raw code still.
Right.
But I certainly anticipate by the end of January that I will have flipped the switch and the old one you won't see anymore.
Fabulous. Fabulous.
Stephanie is correct too in another aspect, that this website allows us to create forms that people can type in and hit submit back to us.
Yes.
Our existing web page is kind of a one-directional communication instead of a bi-directional communication. And
Yep.
this new web page is going to have all the features that you would expect it to.
Just think of free lunch data. We can get so much more data, I think, I'm hoping, when parents can just get on their phone and go tick, 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 boom. And then we get it versus like, we don't get the data, which we need to do a lot of work around it with.
Certainly, you farm more information if you make it easier.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And, and that is true. We will get more information. And another caveat of that, currently with the hotspots that we're distributing to families, we require that families have filled out that free and reduced lunch information before they can get a hotspot.
Yeah, good.
Just
Sure.
another leverage towards getting them to give us that information.
Right.
Right.
Well,
So,
that-
Well, anything
good.
else, Bruce?
oh yeah, you butter some more popcorn.
okay.
All administrative assistants have new desktop computers with 24-inch monitors.
Yay. That's
Their
good.
existing desktop computers were 8 years old.
Oh, my word.
So they're loving it.
Yeah, I
And
love it, man.
the last 2 of those are getting deployed today.
What did you get them?
I got them a DAC 7-year warranty i7.
With an external screen, or it's all built into
No,
one?
it's an external screen. The actual computer, though, is just a small box, and it actually mounts on the back of the monitor.
Oh
Isn't that wild? Oh, they're so wild now. They really are.
And so with that, too, I've gotten all the admin assistants Bluetooth headsets for their desk phones.
Okay. Oh,
Oh, good. Great.
That's just one of those things that makes your job easier, but how do we justify that when we're cutting employees?
yeah, right.
So an opportunity to spend the money when you're not impacting whether you're cutting employees or not. I certainly said, let's get Bluetooth headsets for everyone. I know I need one because every time I pick up the phone, the first thing I have to do is put 2 hands on a keyboard.
Yeah, no, the headphones you can't function without them when you're on the computer all the time.
Those arrived today.
Great.
Oh,
Great.
it's Christmas. It's Christmas up there.
It's Christmas.
So we also replaced the high school computer lab,
Oh,
which was in the same state as the administrative assistant machines as being an old PC lab. We purchased all new PCs for them, and we purchased the latest Photoshop suite.
nice.
We were on
Yes.
CS6 and we've jumped to CS14.
Wow.
We're only a little behind, just a little.
A little bit. Yeah, I was going to say, what are they used for these days? What are labs used for these days?
So that's the only lab we have in the district, and it's used for computer-based curriculum.
What I don't understand that. I mean, like that you can't do it on an iPad, you mean, or?
Like web page design, Photoshop, things like that.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Curriculum materials, really. Yeah.
Coding, if you want to take a course about computers,
Yeah.
you need a computer, not an iPad.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Great.
Yeah.
Great,
Yeah.
great.
Oh, that's wonderful. And teaching the kids how to use those programs, which are so fabulous. I mean, they really are.
And so that lab will be deployed hopefully over Christmas break. I don't feel confident that we'll get to it. Some of my staff members are having some family health issues, and I think I'm gonna not have many people in over Christmas break. So I may not get as much done as I needed right now, but I have some of my technicians have some elderly parents, and that's more important in life for them.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Because
You got
we
that
don't
right.
want them to get sick. And
Family first every time.
yes, exactly. It's much smarter, much safer all the way around. Wow.
So we also bought every administrative assistant a new PC laptop to take home.
Oh,
So
Wow.
that if we do end up in another work from home environment, they have full ability to VPN in to our network and run the financial software that they need to run in order to work from home. It also will run their desk phone through the laptop as well, through the same Elevate app that we use on our smartphones. But some of our admin assistants don't have smartphones, so their new PC laptop will run the Elevate app for them, and they can take phone calls from home.
wow.
So the only problem today with Bruce, what you're presenting, is that I'm going to ask you to present it to the whole board in January.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Stephanie and Bruce, you figure it out, but they need to hear this. This is crazy, crazy good.
Yes,
and I
it
don't want
is.
just the three of us to know it. I want them to know it too. So Stephanie and Bruce, you guys work out January or February and work it out with John. But I want you to tell them what you've told us.
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Or we can just give them the URL to this meeting.
Yes, but do you think they'll watch?
You can't get out of the
Yeah, that's right.
you have to present.
I'll embed it. Don't worry. I'll tell you, Dave.
You can show us all your magic tricks and what works. Oh, I think that's fabulous.
Maybe it should be February because you could actually highlight or show the new webpage. Up to you guys. What you
Well,
think.
certainly I'd be in a better position to demonstrate any of that material in February than I would January.
Which would be
Yeah,
quite
that
powerful.
makes sense.
We are certainly trying to get everything deployed in as timely a fashion as we can. But right now, the school's open, and so we have to address those issues as well. People still need our help while school's open. And in the summertime, I get to hire, our summer help. We have 4 people that we bring in the summertime to help. So this time of year is not the time of year for me to be deploying, but we are.
Yeah, it makes sense because the January meeting is so early, Lauren, and the February meeting is equally early. I mean, so.
I think I'm on vacation in February too.
Oh, good. Maybe.
Bruce, do you hire special buffers in the summer, like specialty buffers?
Buffers in terms of?
No, you're just saying how you want to buff up the iPads.
Well, we bring in 4 teachers, other RSU13 employees that typically don't work in the summer come and work for us, and they literally do. They sit there with cleaning materials and they pick up every single device and try to make it as new as possible. If we've got to hand it to a new student, who wants to pick up something that's all crudted up?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Well, particularly now.
We spend a lot of time on cleaning equipment, and especially more so even now, with COVID.
COVID, exactly. Wow.
So we've also bought streaming equipment to do sports streaming live. So when the sporting event occurred in the fall, we quickly jumped to task with an iPad to provide streaming sports. But that certainly wasn't a quality event, but we tried to give people what we could.
Yeah.
We've purchased high-end cameras that have network capabilities to stream directly from the camera with battery backups and the whatnot to be mobile to do sporting events and stream them live.
Wow.
So we have 2 setups for that so that we could be doing 2 sporting events simultaneously.
It's incredible, isn't it, when you think about what's happened in the last 9 months?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, really.
I'm glad
Must
to
be
be spending
very
money.
happy.
I'm also ready for it to be over. I'd like to go back to normal.
Oh, so wouldn't everybody?
Absolutely. So we're also putting GPS units in the buses. And parents will have the ability to use an app or a web page to get notified when their bus is coming. So we're still working that out with the transportation union. We have 4 test units going in on January 6th, and we're going to pilot that. We think that probably the best way to handle that is to provide a notice to people that sign up, you know, your bus is 5 minutes out, or some sort of an effect like that.
Yep.
We could certainly have it so that they could see a web page and see where the bus is, but we want to be considerate of the bus drivers as well and their concerns for, you know, that whole new technology piece for them. So it's a
Yeah.
little overwhelming. So maybe in the beginning, the easiest way for obtaining value out of it is to just have parents be notified that their bus is within reach so that they might know whether they missed it or not, or whether it's coming or not, or whether that sporting bus that's coming from Ellsworth at 10:30 at night is now 15 minutes away from the high school.
Yes.
And you get a text message so that you can go pick up your kids. We want to have that level of functionality for communicating with the households about their buses and give them the opportunity to know, do I put the kid out on the street now, or is it too late?
Yeah, exactly.
That
Another great thing.
It's outstanding.
Yeah,
Right.
it really
And so
is.
My final thing is cameras, Polycom cameras for teachers to attach to their laptops. So if we have some teachers at the high school that are teaching students in person while they have other students at home remoting in and participating in that fashion. And these are more robust cameras that will provide higher definition, so they might actually be able to see the chalkboard or the whiteboard, I guess you call it nowadays.
Yep.
So, you know, a higher definition camera that just connects with the USB port into their laptop that they're full in control of. They can pick in their Zoom meeting that they want to use that external camera instead of the camera on the lid of their laptop. It comes with a set of speakers as well so that the student from home can be heard by the rest of the classroom. It just makes that a richer environment for the remote learner. And so I'm still in negotiations with the company on that. We're trying to determine the best way to mount these. My concern is if it's a USB cord to the laptop, that once you have a cord on the floor, I'm scared.
Yeah.
So I'd certainly like to create this in such an environment that maybe the camera and the speakers are on a stand, and maybe there's like a shelf on the stand for the laptop to sit on, so the USB cable is not draped from across to their desk. You know, I want to make it so that it's all enclosed in one unit so that there's not any safety issues and broken hardware.
Great.
Yes.
Great.
So other than that, we haven't really been doing much.
Gee whiz, Bruce.
That is like the best tech report I've heard in 13 years on the school board.
Ever.
Well, ever. And I mean, that's 5 years worth of stuff all at once.
Amazing.
Well, certainly we got a lot done all at once. The big gain for me, though, is I feel we have an opportunity to prioritize things that wouldn't have normally found a way to be a priority in our local budget.
Absolutely.
And so we're cleaning up some of the rough edges. and making things act like people would expect them to act.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for all your hard work. And I hope Santa Claus, I hope Santa Claus is very good to you.
I hope so too.
That would be
Thank
good.
you. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Terrific. Hi, Stephanie.
There. I just have to say, I'm so proud of our district for when we're provided with this money for thinking long-term, not just thinking survival of this year, which, that obviously was in the forefront of our minds as well, but thinking about, what's really going to impact students in the long term and be helpful for them, not just, a one and done use and then the year's over. So I think that this whole technology piece, everything that Bruce shared, is really exciting. And it's all long-term,
Yep.
well, as long-term as technology can be these
This
days.
can be, yeah.
Sure.
And I think the other thing that I'm really proud of this district for is looking for those silver linings. Like, despite the pandemic and despite all the work of, the planning and everything that's gone into this year, there are so many silver linings. And so part of what I wanted to report on is a professional development opportunity that I put together for staff, and it's using Google Classroom. So it's using the technology that we're expecting that they're using with the students, because it gives me experience using it and sort of understanding more on the teacher end. And for the participants, some of their feedback was it was really neat being the student, because then they can see what the student experience is.
Yeah.
So I ran a book study, and this is the first time I've done anything like this in terms of development, but this has been one of my silver linings, and it's realizing it's really easy to do professional development this way. And it's easy on my end to create it, and it's easy for teachers to access it. So we did a book study of the distance learning playbook. There's an introduction plus 9 separate modules in here, all about teaching full remote learning, to make sure that we're prepared so that as a district, if we have to shift to that mode, we're ready. For our middle school and high school teachers, there's a lot that's applicable in here that they can use right now because they're hybrid. They have some students that are at home, some students that are in person, and they flip-flop. And there's just a lot of great applicable strategies that we've been talking about as a district that's all rolled up into this, like having clear learning targets, providing students with clear feedback. A lot of this links into what I was sharing at our last board workshop about, the proficiency side of things and the relationship side of things, because it also talks about before you can really even get started with remote learning, you've got to establish that relationship with students. So it's been an excellent read. And because there's an introduction and 9 modules, I was able to draw it out for 10 weeks. At the end of each week, I had an assignment that I made it in a Google Doc and could distribute it to everybody that was in the Google Classroom. I had 20 total participants, and each week they had to do the assignment, and they don't get graded, but I gave feedback. I gave written comments on every piece that people submitted to me, just to help them reflect or give further probing questions. And then I also asked that they do a discussion board each week. And that's not usually a favorite of people's to do. Just if you've ever done any college courses and you've got to do the discussion board, it's usually like, oh, I'm going to do the discussion board. I've got to write my answer, then I've got to respond to 2 people. They didn't have to respond to anybody. But what I asked them to do in the discussion board is for each chapter, this is pretty interactive. It has QR codes in it, so you can watch different pieces. This is all done from a lab school. It's a real school out in California, but they treat it like a teacher action learning lab, and they write about the research that they're doing. So there's some interactive QR codes, but then there's also opportunities for teachers to write in the book and do some reflection. So I picked one assignment, and I only asked them to do one one discussion and one assignment each week. And I made sure that the assignment that I chose was something that was already in the book, but something that was in the book that seemed to really capture the essence of what the chapter was talking about. And then for the discussion, I asked them to take a piece of what they did in their reflective writing assignment and pull it out and add it to a discussion question that I'd posed along the same lines as what they had to do for their assignment, just so that they could share that with their peers and have an opportunity so that high school teachers could see what other high school teachers were thinking about, and high school teachers could see what middle school teachers were thinking about. Elementary school teachers had an opportunity to share and learn from each other, but also see what middle and high school teachers were doing. So it was a district-wide book study. Of the 20 participants, so far 7 have finished. And it's ongoing. So even though I've already posted the last assignment and that due date has come and gone, it's ongoing. Teachers can work at their own pace. They can continue to submit things. I had about 6 teachers submit things today. So our last day was Friday, but I know I'm going to continue to get things that roll in. And I asked teachers in the last discussion question to reflect on 2 things: to rate the book and provide a written comment feedback on how useful they thought that the book was. And they rated it on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being this was really helpful and impactful. There were a few 3s, bunch of 4s, a few 5s. And then I asked them a second question about how impactful is this approach to professional development? Because that was one of my fears for this year. How am I going to do professional development when I can't pull people into central office? Or, I can't be in the schools and I can't have all these meetings. And so I asked, on a scale of 1 to 5, how was this for professional development? All of them that have responded so far have given it 5s. I can work at my own pace. I can see what other people are doing and what they're thinking, but it doesn't have to be live and synchronous. So my schedule isn't impacted. And so my silver lining is I can come up with a lot of different things that I can provide for professional development in this type of a platform. So that's been really exciting.
Did you record yourself on video for them? Is that what you did?
I didn't, nope. And certainly that's something I could do as well. I did that at the beginning of the year because we have a platform called Target Solutions, which is all professional development. That's how we deliver our school bullying and cyberbullying and FERPA, all of our required trainings. Yeah. And then at the beginning of the year, I did a video with a curriculum training, how to focus and prioritize the curriculum. And then of course the health protocols training, which goes over all of the health protocols that we're using. So those were videos, and we've got that platform as well, which again, another silver lining. I wouldn't have thought to do it that way. If this was last year and it was a normal year, I would have gone around to every single school and provided my training in person.
Right.
But, it was great to be, it saves me time too, because if I can do it through video, I only have to do it once and then people can email me questions. Right. But this training was through Google Classroom and I posted assignments. I could have posted videos, but I just did, I had them do a written assignment and then I would respond to them through their written assignment and through the discussion board.
I just think it's also a great thing that you can do. You have a very good presence on screen.
Yes.
Good voice. And I think that if you really adopt this well now, you can use it forever with our staff because it's extremely good and helpful. And as you said, you can reach so many more people, through this, just so many more.
And it allows people to do it on their own time when they have time to really concentrate and go back and redo it if they want to do it again, and look at it.
Yes.
You do that more, I think, when you're not being rushed through something with, say, a live coordinator or whatever.
It's so efficient. It's much more efficient than you running all over the district, Stephanie. And
oh gosh, I know.
And wondering, oh, that was a good thing. Did I say that over at South School or did I just say it in Cushing? So.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Carol.
Yeah, I should clarify. I did run all over the district with the health protocols training. It was videotaped, but I wanted to be live in case there were questions that came up. But I agree. Yes, it is much more efficient. And usually we do a new teacher orientation at the beginning of the school year. And this year we didn't because we wanted to maximize that time that buildings could prepare and get students in. But I was thinking after the fact, I'm like, geez, well, how are they going to know what's available on our district website and where the curriculum materials are. And that's a lot of information. You don't want to email all of that. So it's really overwhelming. And I think, you know, in hindsight, it's really overwhelming in person too. That first day you go to a new teacher orientation, even if you're not a new teacher, you're just new to the district and you're like, okay, wait, that form's there. And you know, that's okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that. Okay. It's a lot. So I recorded an overview of the website so that people can just walk through that at their own time and fast forward through the parts that aren't applicable because they're K-5, or, you know, the part that talks about the high school, I don't need to watch that, or, you know, it's going to make life a lot easier, I think.
Yeah, and everybody doesn't need every piece of every piece.
Right.
That's right. That's
Yep.
right. And you know, it's interesting that you say that, Carol, because when I asked teachers for their reflection on this, that was one of the things that they said. Not every student needs everything. So one of the things that they've learned this year is time is precious. So I can't spend time going over everything for everybody. And if they already know it, I'm going to move on. And if they don't know it, I'm going to give them what they need, and really just prioritizing what's instructed and focusing specifically on what students need, which is amazing. I know that Bruce said, you know, it feels like a big leap forward here with technology. I feel like this prioritization of how we're instructing students is going to be a really big leap forward as well. So that's exciting. We try to find the silver linings, and we're finding them.
And there's so many things that we'll continue to use no matter what, because it is so efficient and people can use it on their own time. I know that we're supposed to have a math pilot update, Stephanie, but it is 4 o'clock.
I will save that one because,
Okay.
yeah, let's save that one.
But and because Bruce took the whole meeting, which is wonderful. Yay, Bruce.
I didn't mean to step on Stephanie's time like that.
Oh, no, I'm sure it makes Stephanie very happy, all those things that you're doing. But I do want to thank you all very much. And again, thank both of you for all the time, and you too, Lauren, all the time and effort you have put into everything.
Well, we certainly appreciate your support.
Well, you
bet.
have our support, believe me.
Every bit.
Big difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all humming right along now, which is really exciting.
Yep.
Because things have worked out, and I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas. Is there anything else you would like to say before we close down?
Yeah, I have one thing. I was invited actually to be part of a curriculum discussion group it was based in California, but there were people from all over the country. And I was the only school board member. And I was really excited in listening to everybody else, how they're coping with this time of COVID, that we are so far ahead of any of those other people.
Yes.
And they're also using the distance learning playbook, every single one of them, but they're still floundering overall in terms of how to put it together to benefit students and staff and faculty at the same time. And it's very erratic, I found. And so I'm pretty proud of us, and proud certainly of you, Stephanie, for how you have, taken the bull by the horns here, because although I heard some really innovative things, they just don't seem to be as laser focused and coordinated and efficient as we have become.
Carol, on top of that, when I was listening on the state school board meetings, the different units of different school districts and what they were doing and stuff, it's amazing how much, because of our very competent team, how much we've accomplished in such a short time, and how much of it is sterling silver.
We had a lot of pieces in place already that put us in a position to be able to respond in such a fashion.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I said. And the other thing that was really stunning to me is that not a single one of these schools or districts have school board direct involvement in the planning and carrying out of these plans. They were stunned by the fact that, for example, we have a curriculum committee.
Surprise.
They just like, what? You mean regular people on the school board. Yeah. And so I left that meeting feeling pretty darn special, I have to say, that we are really knocking it out of the park.
Good, and we are.
We
I
really
think so,
are.
yeah. It's been amazing. It's been an amazing, I don't know, what is it now? 5-year run going on? Schools of our future?
And Susan, well, Bruce and Stephanie know this as well as, of course, Carol, but we were in the gutter, and to change, come out of a gutter is one thing. To go to
Yep.
what we are now is like, oh my God. So,
Well,
it's
I've been in
incredible.
the district for 20 years now, and we are certainly in the best place I've seen in those 20 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a whole team effort, and it's so exciting. And people really care, which is great on all sides. And with that note, I will wish you all a very Merry Christmas. Did Sam get home all right? Sam McDonald?
I think so. I don't know if John has had an opportunity to see him yet. I know he was supposed to arrive in Portland and get a test, and then John was going to meet up with him.
Yeah, that was last weekend, though, I thought,
Oh,
or
yeah.
Sunday or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was wondering if he was let him drive his new truck.
Yeah, right.
Boy, that's a beauty, isn't it?
That's beautiful.
Wow. So's the snowplow. Well, Merry
Thank
Christmas,
you.
all.
Thank you, Susan, for your wonderful leadership on this committee as well.
Yes.
Oh, come on. I
Susan,
just, what?
Is our next meeting the 25th of January?
Yes, it should be. I'd have to check the calendar
Okay.
to be, but it would be the fourth
Fourth
Tuesday.
Monday.
Monday, not Tuesday. It's okay.
4th is the 25th.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you all.
Safe and
Good.
wonderful holidays, everybody.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Yes.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
right now.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Happy New Year.
Yeah,
Go
right.
Broncos.
Bound to be better.
Yes. Oh.